Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Dan Richard Fishing, and today we are going to be talking about batteries. One of the questions I get on one of my most popular videos that I've ever done on the channel, which was how to properly wire up a 24-volt trolling motor to your battery system. One of the biggest questions I got was, what kind of batteries do I need? Good question. So today we're going to talk about what kind of batteries do you need, which ones to buy, what size, what are the different technologies, and all that good stuff. So stay tuned if you want to know more about batteries. And of course, I would love it for you guys out there that know your battery needs and what kind of brands you use. Post a comment. Tell me, what do you use? How do you use them? What size you guys have on your boats? What are your favorite brands? Maybe some of the stories, horror stories you've had with other batteries. And if you have, of course, any comments, be sure to post your comments. Let me know if you have any questions. If you have any questions about what you're going to see in this video or any other electrical questions about your boat, post them and I'll try my best to answer them. Also, bear in mind that down below in the description, I will have links to everything we're going to talk about. So the battery brands, battery companies, any other products for maintenance or for installation, any products that we talk about, you can just scroll right down into the description below and you'll see I'll have links for everything there, okay? So let's start off with the very basics, all right? Let's do it. Let's get the party started with the very, very basics. The question that I've heard many times, why can't I just use a regular car battery? Well, you can, technically. You can use a regular car battery, but there are some important differences you need to understand between a car battery and a marine or RV battery. Some of the smaller differences is that on a marine battery like these guys, here, come on over here, I'll show you, come on. You can see over here, you've got two different kind of terminal posts. You've got the standard one that you'll see on a car battery that is only on a car battery. And on a marine battery, you've also got this screw-in post like this, where you can screw down accessories that are not on those big giant terminal heads, okay? So that's one of the big differences right there. Another big difference is simply in their construction. You see, car batteries are made purely for cold cranking amps. They're there to output as much amperage as they can to start your car or your vehicle, especially in cold weather. They're not made for prolonged use without some way of recharging. You see, every time you start your car and it's running, it actually recharges your battery. Whereas on a boat, the engine does do that, but when you're using your trolling motor and stuff like that, nothing's recharging, you're just drawing. So marine batteries are made not only for cranking power, but we also have deep cycle batteries, which are for prolonged discharge at high rates for a long amount of time. You know, these batteries need to be able to power your trolling motor for 10, 12 hours without dying. No car battery will ever do that. So very important that you understand that you can technically use a car battery, but you're going to be in for a world of hurt when it comes to running any of your accessories for a long period of time. Another big difference is that the components used in a marine battery tend to be more robust. They're built thicker, stronger to take a beating. You know, while a car is constantly moving, it has a very good suspension. It's a relatively smooth ride, whereas your boat is getting hammered and beaten down pretty hard. So it's important that the battery has that more rugged construction to handle those kind of demands. All right, so listen, with that out of the way, let's talk about the first thing you need to consider when you're going to buy a battery for your boat. You need to consider the application. What are you using the battery for? There are two main kinds of battery, okay? There are cranking marine batteries, which is a hybrid between a cranking battery, but also to run smaller electrical accessories for a long period of time, such as your electronics. Or are you looking for something that requires a lot of draw, a deep cycle battery, and that would be for your trolling motor, okay? So important to understand, am I powering my electronics? Is it to power the motor on the boat, or is this to power my trolling motor? So if you're looking to buy something for your trolling motor, you're looking for deep cycle batteries, and if you're looking for something for cold cranking amp and running smaller accessories, you're looking for a starting battery, okay? So it's important to make sure you keep that in mind. So identify which kind of batteries you need for what, and then you can start looking into the technology. And you might ask yourself, what's the difference between a cold cranking battery and a deep cycle battery? They look kind of the same. This one's a lot bigger, but they look pretty much the same. What's the difference? Well, the deep cycle battery is actually designed for better discharge rates, okay? And the way they do that is the plates that are inside that I guess create the ionic charge, they're a lot thicker. So it's made to last a lot longer, but has less cranking amperage. Does that make sense? So that's why it's important to distinguish between the two. They also tend to, because of those thicker plates, they will overheat a lot less. The batteries do get hot, especially with heavy use. So with heavy sustained use, those extra plates allow the battery to not overheat and possibly cause some serious problems on your boat. Once you've decided what the application is for your batteries, the next big question is technology. There are many different technology options in terms of what kind of battery you're going to use. You've got these regular liquid or flooded batteries, you've got AGM, or you've got gel batteries, or you have lithium ion batteries, which are obviously the most expensive. So what we'll do is we'll talk about the technology that we have. Now I can only show you guys just regular flooded batteries, but we'll go over all of them and we'll start with the basics, okay? So the very basic ones you can get, the cheapest ones you can get are these flooded standard batteries. They're the ones that you see almost everywhere. And they are lead acid based batteries that are liquid filled. And there are two different versions. There is a flooded battery that is maintenance free, which is sealed. And then you have the older style, which are not sealed, that you can actually open ports on them like this one and refill them. Inside these batteries is a mixture of sulfuric acid and distilled water. And some people, what they'll do is they'll check them and top up the water if necessary. I don't know that that is something that I've ever actually done. Typically the batteries are dead by the time that happens, and I've had batteries for 5 years that did not need to be topped up. So when you're talking about a maintenance-free battery, you'll hear that often, maintenance-free. It means it's sealed, it's not something you open. And this is a great example. This one has no ports on it, there's no way to open it, okay? So that's sort of the difference with those. Now these batteries tend to sell for $80 to $100 and up, so they are relatively cheap. They have an excellent lifespan. I've had a set that died in their 6th year, but of course the amount that you drain them, how long you keep them drained for, and how often you drain them will obviously affect the lifespan. And in terms of how to charge these or a battery tender, you can pretty much use anything that's on the market. Any kind of charger or battery tender will work for these. You don't have to buy anything special. You can get a really cheap tender and it'll work. So very inexpensive to use. They have a decent lifespan, very inexpensive to keep charged and to keep maintained. Okay, so these are flooded acid lead batteries. Next up, we have the next class of batteries, which are AGM and gel batteries. And these are called VRLA batteries. That's the category, which stands for valve regulated lead acid batteries. And AGM and gel, unlike these which have a liquid inside, have a more solid, or in the gel's case, a gel type interior. AGM stands for absorbed glass matte, and gel obviously inside is a kind of a gel paste material. And these are another generation, the next generation of batteries that provide a better charge time, a better discharge rate, and are considered safer. So AGM out of the two is the most expensive, and it does have the highest threshold in terms of charge and discharge rate. So this means they charge faster and they discharge slower. So you get more power out of them than say a gel or one of these guys. However, the drawback is that an AGM does tend to have a shorter lifespan than gel. So gel is a good sort of balance between the two. And of course, there's the other advantage. For example, if you were to knock one of these over, or you stored it improperly, or you were in an accident, this would obviously spill sulfuric acid somewhere. Whereas the solid batteries will not leak any kind of liquid that could potentially damage your boat or damage wherever you're storing them. And it's actually happened to me where I had a battery that was in the battery tray and I hadn't noticed it must have leaked somehow. I took it out and set it down on the boat, in a different boat, and when I went to go remove it the next day, there was actually like a black stain in the carpet, and it actually damaged the carpet from the sulfuric acid. So that is one of the other advantages to an AGM or to a gel. In terms of a charger or a tender, you also have the advantage that you can pretty much use any modern charger for one of these guys. You can double check on the box to make sure it does support AGM or gel, but because it is a lead acid battery, it should just charge just like any other regular type of battery. So nothing special there either. You can go with an inexpensive charger. And finally, the last bit of technology would be lithium-based batteries, lithium-ion batteries, which are the newest generation of batteries. A lot of pros are starting to move to them in the last couple of years. And the advantages are pretty clear. It is, first of all, a more expensive battery. They are starting to come down in price. They're at about $1,000 now for a battery, maybe even $850. But there are huge advantages to these batteries. One of the disadvantages, one of the main disadvantages that you'll find with any kind of lead acid-based battery, doesn't matter if it's one of these flooded regular ones or an AGM or a gel, they all suffer from the same problem, and it's the power bandwidth. So the more the battery drains in power, the less amperage output it produces. So for example, if you've got some deep cycle batteries like this on your trolling motor, and they're starting to get pretty drained, you'll actually notice a performance decrease on your trolling motor. You'll get less torque out of them, you'll get less pull. And this is because as the batteries lose their charge, they lose their power output. This is gone with lithium. Lithium batteries maintain their full power output. It doesn't matter what the charge is. It could be 100% or 25%. So that's obviously a huge advantage because the power range, the output just stays the same constantly. The other disadvantage with these kind of batteries is that if you drain them too far and you kind of push them to their limit too often, you'll shorten the lifespan dramatically. Whereas with a lithium battery, you don't. It's a non-issue. You can drain it to like 10% and then put it back on the charger and you haven't really hurt it. So that's also another huge advantage. Also, lithium batteries have a huge number of cycles. So this means how often you can drain it and recharge it. It's about 5,000 cycles, which is about 15 to 20 times more than these kind of batteries. So if you're somebody that is fishing a lot, you're a heavy user and you're constantly draining your batteries, you're going to get way more life out of a lithium battery. And I mean, that's just going to pay for itself right there. The other thing too is that it holds a charge a lot longer, significantly longer, and it is also faster to charge. So those lithium ion batteries just hold so much capacity, it's insane. So you'll also get a lot more time on there, and they don't lose their charge. So you don't have to be as crazy making sure they're on a tender for their maintenance. They can be stored for months at a time, and they pretty much keep their entire charge. Another really cool advantage, and this is one that has me seriously looking at the lithium batteries, is the fact that you can save on weight dramatically, okay? So one of these bad boys weighs like 45, 50 pounds. It's very heavy. A lithium battery weighs about 20 pounds. And there's one other really cool thing that I think a lot of people don't quite realize. So if you've got a 24, now all these batteries come in 12 volt sizes. So if you have a 24 volt trolling motor or a 36 volt trolling motor, well then you're gonna need to buy additional batteries to power them. So obviously if you have a 24 volt trolling motor, you're gonna need two 12 volt batteries. And if you've got a 36 volt trolling motor, you're gonna need 3 batteries. Well, lithium batteries come in voltage configuration, so you can buy a single battery in a 12, a 24, or a 36 volt configuration. So you don't have to buy 3 lithium batteries. You can buy one and it's 36 volts and bang, you're done. You can power your trolling motor with it, which is obviously a huge space savings. We're talking about 25, 30 pound battery versus 150 pounds of batteries. So that's pretty impressive as well. So if you're one of those guys that likes to run their boat as fast as you can and every single pound counts, then obviously lithium ion is kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? And finally, for lithium batteries, do bear in mind you need to make sure you have a battery tender that can handle lithium ion batteries. It is becoming more common, but a lot of them do not. So make absolutely sure that your battery tender or your battery charger can handle lithium batteries. And they tend to be on the more expensive side. So not only will you spend more for the battery, you spend more for the charging system, but at the same time you get way more lifetime, more power, and overall way less maintenance, okay? So that's why it's a serious consideration for me. Just the price needs to come down a little lower. All right, next up. We're going to talk about what size do you need? How big of a battery do you get? Well, first of all, the way the sizes work on a battery, it's by something called the group number. All batteries have a group number on them. So for example, on this battery here, this is a group 24 battery. You can see it's right here. And up here, we've got the group 31 number up on the label. So the group number is what you want to focus on. Now, oftentimes the group number will be accompanied with some letters. And what that has to do with, it can determine the post configuration. So where's the positive and the negative on the battery. And it can also tell you whether or not it's a deep cycle battery or a starting battery. So in terms of group number, the numbers are pretty standard. So for a deep cycle trolling motor battery, you're going to want to look for a group 29 or a group 31. All right. I always go with the bigger, the better. So I would personally recommend you get the biggest that you can put in your battery tray. So for me, it's these 31s. And if you look up on forums and stuff like that, everybody talks about the 29s or the 31s. In my mind, I'm up in Canada, and for some reason, the There are no 29s here. I can't find 29s. I can only find 31s. But when I look at the specs online, they seem to be the same battery. They have the same energy specifications, the same battery dimensions. So I'm wondering if maybe in Canada they're 31s and in the US it's 29s. I'm not really sure. But either way, 29 or 31 deep cycle. And the standard for your starting battery and to run your electronics in your boat is a group 24 or a 27 starting battery. But make sure you want a starting battery, not a deep cycle battery for starting your engine, so your main battery, and for your electronics. And of course, remember, you never run your electronics, your sonar equipment, your chart plotters, you never run those off of your trolling motor battery, or else you're just asking for interference. So you always want to make sure you have two separate batteries for that, okay? So that's it, pretty easy for the sizes. So 24, 27 for your starting and accessories, and you want to go with a deep cycle 31 or a 29 for your trolling motors, or trolling motor, yeah. Alrighty, so we've discussed application, we've discussed technology, we've discussed size that you need. So next up is, what brand do you go with? So a lot of people ask me, what brands do I like? And listen, you know, I have not owned a boat that required multiple batteries for very long, but I do have a lot of friends that have been boaters for 30 plus years. And a lot of people actually recommend the good old cheap Everstart Max batteries that you buy at Walmart. And I can attest to the fact that my last set of batteries were that brand, and I got rid of them when they were 6 years old. So that's pretty impressive for a battery, let alone a super cheap battery that I got at Walmart. The warranty is decent, so really, in terms of flooded batteries, very happy with the Walmart Everstart Max batteries, and there's a lot of people that'll tell you the same thing. And I found that it had a great power band. The charge lasted me all day. I could fish for 10, 12 hours in my tin boat in heavy current, and it lasted the entire day. And in fact, when I finally got rid of them, it's because I noticed they were only lasting about 2 hours. We'll get into that story afterwards anyway. So, but I mean, there are many, many other different brands out there that you can look at. So while I can personally vouch for the Walmart brand batteries, you've got, you know, Odyssey, you've got Optimum, you've got Duracell, you've got Diehard, you've got AC Delco. I mean, there's just, the brands go on and on and on. I would recommend you simply go online, do your research, look at reviews, and also don't be afraid to shop for sales. There's a lot of these batteries go on sales, or you get mail-in rebates, stuff like that. So shop around, look around, and go with what seems to be the best for your budget and for your technology needs. Now, in terms of lithium-ion batteries, like I said, I've never purchased any, and honestly, I don't know anybody in person that has moved to that technology. But I can tell you that, you know, I follow Scott Martin very closely, and Scott Martin has moved to Lithium Pros, their brand of lithium batteries. So you can check those guys out. It's lithiumpros.com, and he swears by those batteries. He's been involved with them for the last 5 years, so apparently that's a really solid brand to go to. David Dudley also just recently switched. He did a video at the end of the season, around the end of the season 2019, and he switched to a company called MillerTech. And he really loved not only did he love the technology and overheating protection in their lithium batteries, but he also loved the price point. Apparently he bought batteries that cost $825 each, which is the cheapest I've ever heard of for a lithium battery. And of course they will continue to go down. So that is another brand you could look into, MillerTech. And believe me, David Dudley takes his batteries very seriously, okay? I fished in his boat with him at the FLW tour stop when he won Angler of the Year in Lake Champlain. And not only does he have his batteries, you know, in the compartments, I had batteries under my feet where I was sitting in case something died, and he had the extra batteries. So he really, really understands the importance of batteries. So if he's giving a serious look and he's using MillerTech, I would also suggest probably taking them pretty seriously as well. Okay, now for a little story. You're seeing me tout these brands and talking about especially the Walmart brand batteries, the Max batteries, and yet I'm showing you the batteries for my boat, and my deep cell batteries are Interstate, and my my main starting battery is a Nautilus battery. So you're probably asking yourselves, why don't you have Everstart batteries if those are so awesome? Okay, so if you watch any of my older videos, you will know that I was at the boat ramp when the original battery that came with this boat, when I bought it, died. It died totally out of the blue. I didn't even, it wasn't low on charge. I didn't notice it losing charges too quick. it just went from being awesome to being completely dead, and it was dead at the ramp. So I ran to the nearest Walmart with my with the truck and with the boat hooked up, and this is after I put it back onto the trailer, because I had already put it in the water when I realized the battery was dead. Ugh, it was a mess. Anyway, so they didn't have any. They had no Group 24 marine batteries. They didn't have any max batteries. They just had some other sizes that I couldn't use. So next door to it was a hardware store that's all across Canada called Canadian Tire. And they have these MotoMaster Nautilus marine batteries, and this is what they had in stock. So I just took what was there. So that's why I have this battery, which has served me very well for the last couple of years, or for the last year. And the reason why I have interstate batteries is because I was in the middle of buckfuck nowhere on a fishing up a camp, and the batteries lasted about an hour. And these were the original Walmart batteries that I had that were 6 years old. And I had noticed earlier that it didn't seem to be holding a charge as long, and I was like, whatever, it'll keep going. I'm gonna be fishing lakes, there's no current, it'll be fine. Well, after an hour, I had no more trolling motor, so I had to get back to the ramp, and the only place I could find within 2 hours distance, a 2-hour radius of where I was this local camping store that only carried interstate batteries, and they happened to have on the shelf 2 Group 31s. So that's why I've got these interstate batteries. A lot of people have told me maybe they're not the best, but listen, so far, they also have kept the boat powered for 12-hour days. I haven't had any issues with them whatsoever, so we'll see what kind of lifespan they put on, but I haven't had any issues with them. So that is why I don't have the Walmart batteries, because all the batteries on my boat were bought in urgent situations, okay? So that's why, so I'm sorry. Yeah. Next up, we're going to talk about maintenance and installation. So you now have your batteries, okay? So you've determined the application, you've determined the brand, the technology you want, the size you need, and now you're ready to install. So what do you need to install these properly? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go look inside here, and I'm going to show you in the battery compartment the basic pieces that you need to make sure your batteries are safely and securely installed, okay? Let's have a look. And don't forget, again, anything we talk about, I will have links in the description below so you see examples of the items that we're going to talk about, okay? Okay, what we're looking at here is the battery compartment for my trolling motor batteries, okay? Now, it's very important that all of your batteries sit in a tray, okay? So you can see here, I've got a tray that's bolted down into the boat. It doesn't move, nothing's gonna move out of here. And the trays have straps, okay? So it's extremely important that your batteries are strapped down. So when you're hitting the bumps and all that sort of thing, your batteries aren't flying around. So battery tray with straps, obviously you need these 100%. And the other accessory that I like are these post covers. So these post covers, they're rubber covers. You can see they're flexible. You pass your wires through this, and that's what goes on top of the posts. Serves 2 purposes. One, if the batteries for whatever reason do get loose and jump up and hit something like a metal cover, you won't have a short. Or if you've got these in a bigger compartment where you have some loose accessories, they don't fall across your terminals and cause a short. And if you watch a video by Scott Martin, the back of his boat actually catches on fire. Oh, the building is on fire. Because he had some, what do you call them, boosting cables fall across his batteries and started a fire. The cables melted and caught on fire. So lesson learned, if you would have been running these guys, you would not have that kind of problem. So very important. The other thing you need to make sure is that you are running circuit breakers like this. You should have circuit breakers and fuses protecting all of your electronics. So everything that goes to your electronics or your trolling motor should be protected by a fuse or a breaker. And if you haven't seen it yet, be sure to check out my video on how to properly install a trolling motor and your batteries. And I go over the proper gauge wiring, how to wire up the batteries with the crossover, and how to install and where to get this circuit breaker, okay? So please be sure to check that out. All right, last but not least, the final thing is maintenance. It's making sure your batteries stay charged and maintained. It is very important that as soon as you're done your boating for the day, that you get your batteries charged back up. You do not want to leave them drained. It's horrible for the lifespan. So for the first little bit, what I used to do is I had 3 of these battery chargers. I actually had 3 of these, so when I would get home, I would open up all the compartments, clamp on, use these clamps, clamp everything on to all the batteries, plug it into a power bar, plug it into an extension cord, and that's how I would charge the boat. As you can imagine, it was super tedious, but that is what I did at first. And then during the winter, I would take all of the batteries out, and I would connect them to this 4-bank Noco Genius charger. And I still actually do use this for my RV battery and for the motorcycle battery during the winter and some other things like that. But I did have to take all the batteries out of the boat, which kind of sucked, and charge it. By the way, this brand does handle lithium batteries as well. Just an FYI, this will do all kinds of batteries, so that's why these are pretty expensive. Then what I finally did was I actually converted everything, and I spoiled myself and got myself an onboard 3-bank battery charger. Let me show you what I did, okay? Come and check this out. All right, so under here we have a Pro Sport from Pro Mariner. This is a 3-bank battery charger that's built in. I've installed it permanently into the boat. And the way this works is you need to buy the number of banks you have that match the number of batteries. So if you have 3 batteries, you get a 3-bank charger. If you've got 4 batteries, you need a 4-bank, you got 2 batteries, you need 2, etc. So this, I bought it off of Amazon, and it works absolutely amazing. This is the 3rd year that I use it, and I love it. It works perfectly, and I get home, and all I have to do, I'll show you. All I have to do when I get home is I bring the extension cord to this power cord, plug it in, and bang, you're done. Nothing else to do. Charges the whole system, and it has a status on there. It tells me if the batteries are any good. It tells me if the batteries are dead, if they're charging. And all I do is I plug that in during the winter, and it just keeps the batteries charged throughout the entire season. So that is the way to go, guys. And again, there'll be a link in the description to this particular brand. I love it. It has great reviews, and it installed in seconds, and it works perfectly. So highly recommend. Get yourself an onboard battery charger and save yourself so many headaches. And if you want, you can even go fancy, and you can get yourself one of these guys. So this is a AC plug-in. And what you can do is you can just you can install this somewhere on your boat, easy to reach, and you just basically uncap it and plug in your extension cord. But I thought it was easier just throwing it in like that. So that's it. That's how I did that. So that's it, guys. I hope that really helped you figure out how batteries work, what kind of technology there is, what kind you need for your boat. But of course, as always, if you have any questions, drop me a comment. And if you like this video, obviously click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff. And again, everything we talked about, there's links in the description below for everything we talked about today. And I'm actually going to do a series of videos like this. So stay tuned over the next few weeks. We're going to talk about other components in the electrical system. So we're going to talk about how to install one of these battery tenders that I've got built into the boat, one of the chargers. We're going to talk about the overall wiring of the boat and how everything is organized, and anything else I can think of while we're waiting for fishing season to come back, okay? So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope this was helpful to you. And again, let me know if you found this video helpful and if you'd like me to do more, all right? Take it easy, guys. Have a good one. Tight lines, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.